As part of our information and knowledge sharing platform, I have the very unique and special privilege to meet one-on-one people from all over the world currently in Australia, either on a working visa or here on a student visa. G'day, my name's KEP10 and welcome to the podcast. To assist you in coming to Australia, I'll be interviewing individuals and groups to ask specific questions about their experience here in Australia, and we'll explore issues such as dealing with migration agents and the visa application process. Also be talking about working in Australia, what life is like at university and college here in Australia, renting and housing and shared housing, etc. in Australia, safety and security, and also being so far away from home, from family and friends. Welcome back, and today I've got the pleasure to introduce to you our next special guest. Please welcome Patrick. And Patrick, could I get you to please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes, Kevin, no worries. My name's Patrick Clark and I'm from Exeter, England, and I'm 32 years old.
Okay, thank you so much. And how long have you been in Australia?
I've been in Australia for almost 4 years.
4 years, okay. And where in Australia have you lived?
Mainly within the Melbourne city area and also in southeast suburbs of Melbourne. And I did some farm work near Bendigo, which is just north of Melbourne.
Okay, well, Bendigo about 2 or 3 hours drive?
Yes, that's right.
Outside of Melbourne. Thanks, Patrick. And for the benefit of our listeners, what motivated you to decide to come to Australia rather than another country such as Canada or New Zealand?
Well, it's funny you say that because actually I was originally in New Zealand and I was just working at a warehouse at the time, and there was another British guy there who'd just come over from Australia, and my visa was running out in New Zealand, and I had an option either to go back to England or try somewhere new. And he just told me how great Melbourne was, what a great city it was, how great a city it would be to pursue music, which is a great hobby of mine. And just sort of felt a drive to come here just purely for the opportunities with music, I think.
Good. And what were your expectations with travelling to Australia?
Well, I had some pretty good expectations because I'd watched some videos on YouTube. I had actually been to Australia about 18 years ago in about 2000, 2001. We came over for a 3-week holiday with family, but obviously it's changed quite a lot since then. But general expectations was that, it's quite a positive country with a lot of exciting opportunities and great places to travel and a diverse sort of environment, with the stuff up in Great Barrier Reef, and then you got the forests and also the more sort of farmlands down in Victoria and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Very good. Patrick, thank you for that. What I wanted to talk about now is your experience with dealing with migration agents or immigration agents and also the visa application process. So can you tell us some of the difficulties or challenges that you faced when going through the visa application process?
Well, I mainly did it through Britannica, which was the education agency, managed to find me the course here at Nova. And they generally just talked us through the different options and how much it was going to cost and different things. And the main issues that came up were mainly just waiting. I had to go on a bridging visa for about a month. And it could just be a bit stressful just waiting for the answer. You don't know what the government's going to say. And then also there was the financial side of it. You have to make sure that you've saved up a bit of money when you're over here because the visa costs can come out of nowhere and sometimes they're a bit pricey. So
okay, we'll get onto that a bit longer. Now, you mentioned you had about a 4-week wait in relation to your bridging visa.
Yeah.
What about the other visas? How long did they take?
Well, the actual working holiday visa, I applied for it. I think I applied for it one evening in New Zealand online, and then pretty much within that week, it could have even been the next day, they got back and just granted it. Working holidays seem to be they were back in 2015. They were quite relatively easy to get, I think. Student visas, obviously, they assess different things.
Right. And are you currently on a student visa or working visa?
Yes, I'm on a student visa, yeah.
Excellent. And can you tell us your experience dealing with the migration agents?
So I've only really spoken to a lawyer really, and I've spoken to an immigration agent briefly, but not too in depth. They tend to try and give you the best information they can. Depends on your situation really, and I think it's best to, in my experience, I just wanted to get maybe a second opinion from different people, unless you're with a migration agent who's got, good awards and good kind of recommendations, maybe one that's been recommended by a friend who's already, managed to find permanent residency or whatever visa you're aiming for.
Good, thanks. And how much did the migration agent charge you?
Well, they were actually, the one that I spoke to with regards to music did a free consultation, and then if I wanted to explore it more, it was about $99, which is, it's not too bad really, considering they'll look more into it for you, but you just don't know what the next cost will be and whether it will go on. But yeah, it can range really from anywhere from 100 to, upwards, maybe 250 if you go with a lawyer or someone.
Okay, and you're talking per hour?
Per hour, yeah.
So $100 up to about $250, depending on whether you're dealing with an agent or a migration lawyer, perhaps.
Yeah, migration.
Thanks very much, Patrick. What I want to do now is move on to working in Australia. Tell us, are you currently working?
Yes.
Okay, and what type of work are you doing?
I'm a factory hand, so I work in a printing factory in South Oakley.
And how many hours are you currently working?
Currently only doing 20 hours during school, university time, and doing 40 hours during holidays, Christmas holidays or summer holidays.
Good. And tell us, how long did it take you to find your first job?
Well, when I first came to Australia, I had to go door to door with CVs to different bars and things for that. Managed to find one within about maybe a week to 2 weeks. Was dependent on. I think you have to just be quite proactive, but also depends on your skill set and what your CV looks like. Your experience.
Good. Thanks. And you mentioned you're currently working in the printing industry. So what drove you to choose that type of job?
Well, I was working in a warehouse more in the city, and it was very KPI based, very sort of like performance based. There was a lot of pressure put on us, and I don't know, I just felt like, I quite enjoyed working in a factory, but I just wanted to work in a factory that was a bit more friendlier, a bit more not so on your back, but you still have to work hard, but they don't pressure you so much. And I just applied for factory jobs on Seek, and while I was...
and is that the process that you followed, getting on seek.com?
Yeah, most of the jobs I found in Australia I found online, and seek.com is quite a good website because you can upload your CV pretty easily and just send it to a potential employer.
Tell us a bit more detail in terms of the process that happened, in terms of finding this factory job in the printing. So give us a bit of detail.
So I applied. There was an advert on seek.com, I think, that was just saying factory hand needed with the amount of pay that they wanted to give, and just uploaded my CV. I think it's good to just aim that CV specifically towards that job. Maybe if you have any experience, even if it's from 5 or 10 years ago or whatever, just to add that experience and just cater the CV for that specific role. Okay. And then I just sent it to them, and they got in contact in about a week, I think it was.
So they contacted you?
They contacted me, yeah.
Okay. How did they contact you?
They contacted me by phone.
Okay.
They just offered to have an interview.
Okay, and then invited you to come in for an interview.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And what happened during the interview?
The interview was pretty good. They just showed us around the factory, told us about the different jobs that you'd be doing in the role, and then they just asked if I'd like to start the next day. And to be honest, I didn't think I was going to be at that job for that long, but it's now been almost 3 years, so you never know with some jobs.
Excellent. And what pay rate are you on?
Currently on $21 to $25.
Okay, so somewhere between $21 and $25 per hour.
Per hour,
yeah. Thanks very much, Patrick. And what challenges, generally, in terms of, you mentioned you've done some farm work and some other bits of pieces, and you're currently in the printing environment, what challenges did you face, or do you face, working in Australia?
Well, you're obviously competing against Australian residents and citizens, and you have certain restrictions on a lot of these visas. Like with the working holiday visa, you can only work for 6 months, and with the student visa, you can only work 20 hours initially. And it can be a bit of a struggle sometimes finding an employer that work around your schedule, work around your visa. But generally, if you're just nice and polite to people, I think they'll try and help you. Australians are quite helpful people deep down, they try and help people. And
do you feel safe and secure in your work environment?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there is a few spiders on some of the signs that we make, but
spiders?
Yeah, so there's a few redbacks and stuff, but we that's very rare. It's not very common. But generally, I feel quite safe in the factory, I feel. Yeah.
And does your workplace provide you with personal protective equipment such as gloves, boots?
Yes, we have protective gloves, and we have protective clothing and breathing apparatus for certain jobs and different things. So.
Yeah, I'd imagine in the printing environment, quite a few chemicals.
Yeah, there's a few chemicals, but we have breathing apparatus. We can also, the factory's well ventilated, and I feel very looked after there at the factory. I've not had any issues the whole 3 years I've been there. So.
Okay. And do you feel like you're treated with courtesy and respect in the workplace?
Yes, very much so, yeah.
Thanks, Patrick. What I want to do now is move on to college and university life here in Australia.
Yeah.
What course are you currently enrolled in?
So I'm currently doing the Business Management and Leadership Advanced Diploma.
That's at an advanced diploma level?
Yes, yeah.
And prior to that, what other courses have you completed?
So I've done a Cert 4 in Business Management and also a Diploma in Business Management and Leadership.
Okay. And what was the main reason for choosing a particular college? Was it the cost? Was it the location? Maybe a bit of both, or the courses they offered, or their reputation?
Yeah, it was a kind of mixture of all of those things, really. I think the cost was quite a big thing, being it's much lower than what you'd expect for a lot of courses, range from sort of 20,000 upwards, sometimes, like especially in degrees and things, whereas this was a lot less than that. And also the location, it's in the city, which I think is always good to sort of base yourself in the city for studies and stuff. And
yes.
Also, it had a business course, which I thought was quite a broad subject. I can use it in all different types of avenues, all different types of things that I'm trying to pursue in my life. So, even with music as well.
Excellent. So, I guess the takeaway point with the college in terms of the fees, you mentioned part of your motivation was costs. So, do your research in terms of the various colleges and what they offer and the cost, because the cost can vary quite significantly.
Yes, yeah.
So, thanks, Patrick. What I want to do now is move on to housing and accommodation here in Australia. Now, you mentioned before that you're living in Melbourne or the suburbs of Melbourne.
Yes.
And how much, if you don't mind me asking, how much rent do you pay?
I've got quite a cheap place at the moment. It's $90 a week.
Yes. And does that involve you sharing the property with other people?
Yes, I share it with 3 other people.
Yeah, okay. Each of you are paying $90, or is it split various different ways?
Yeah, 3 of us there's 4 of us all together. 3 of us are actually paying $90, and one of the others has got an ensuite room and he's paying a bit more.
Okay, so you sort that out amongst a lot of you. And in terms of getting a bit of a sense of travelling around the city of Melbourne, how far do you have to travel to both work and college from where you're living?
It takes me about half an hour to get to work, and then it's about an hour and 10 minutes maybe to get to the city to do studies or to pursue anything in the city.
Thank you. And the final thing I want to bring up is, do you feel safe and secure moving around Melbourne or Australia generally on public transport and otherwise?
Yes, generally feel pretty safe, especially on the train network. At night you have the PSOs, the Police Protective Service police officers there, so there's always someone there that can protect people and that at the different stations if anything was to kick off. And also around the city of Melbourne there's I know there's been certain incidents that have happened in the city, but there's always lots of police around and stuff, and generally you feel quite safe.
Good. And given that you've been living in Australia for some time now, would you do anything differently if you had your time over again?
I think if I was out here again, I would probably try and network more with different people. There's different groups that you can have that you have over here, that even on Facebook or different things, and it might open up easier opportunities because I'm actually seeking PR at the moment. It might open up different opportunities to actually get permanent residency.
Sure, so PR being permanent residency. Yeah. Good. And what would you advise others considering coming to Australia, either to study or work or a bit of both?
Yeah, I would generally just say, try and enjoy yourself as much as you can, which I'm sure you will when you come here. It's such a great country, but really just try and focus on working quite hard and just keeping your job as the main thing, I think. Everything else tends to sort of centre around that, really. And also it can lead